And up next, we're turning our focus onto the role of IFSC and exploring its potential to mobilize capital needed to address climate changes. I'm delighted to welcome onto the stage for a very special fireside chat the two speakers of the stage, Shri Rajaraman, Chairperson, International Financial Services Centres Authority, in a very special conversation with Vipul Roongta, Managing Director and CEO, HDFC Capital Advisors. Welcome back, Mr. Roongta. And for this fireside chat, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we invite onto the stage Chairperson, International Financial Services Centre Authority, Shri Rajaraman.
Thank you. So, sir, it's nice that we are having a green summit in the city which probably needs a green summit. I must say that I know Mr. Rajaraman for a long period, and there is definitely a movement away from Delhi that has impacted, because he's significantly younger in Ahmedabad than probably what I saw him 10 years back. So, sir, I'm sure the air has something to do with it. But pleasure, sir, pleasure to host you and to have this opportunity to have a chat with you. You need no introduction for the audience. Mr. Rajaraman is the chairperson at IFSCA, 35 years, career bureaucrat, engineer, design architect, planner, infrastructure, metro railways, lots of different kinds of industries, and now regulator. So, sir, how has this change affected you and your personal style of things? Is there something which is new to you?
No, but, I mean, as a civil servant, I think you learn the art of administering. So therefore, I mean, and I had the opportunity of working in the Ministry of Finance, handling portfolios which were similar. So I used to be on the, I mean, since we are in a green summit, I should also say that I mean, I had the great opportunity to work with the NIF when they launched the Green Growth Platform and the other entities, I mean, which actually enabled the sovereign to actually get into, I mean, supporting and financing green innovations and the climate finance in a big way. So for example, that platform has grown very significantly well. So and it has set the pace for other kind of platforms to emerge in India. So this, I feel, is the opportunity for a public administrator, for a public servant. I think a lot of this green innovations and the green finance and the climate finance that we are talking about today requires substantial amount of support from the sovereign, from not only the sovereign but also multilateral agencies and so on and so forth. So, I mean, in that sense, I think the COP29, I mean, presents a mixed bag. So when because we also need to keep this this number in mind, because since you asked this question, I think we need to also look at the bigger issue. So today, if you look at the various estimates, I think when I read about it maybe a couple of years back, the number on the table for the world to stay at net zero by 2050 was about $125 trillion. But the numbers have actually gone up, I think. In fact, I was just reading a report by the Climate Policy Initiative, which tells that the numbers could be in the excess of $260 trillion. So from 125 trillion, it has gone up to $260 trillion. So the number, I think whatever the number may be, it may be, I think we can keep on discussing these numbers. But the number is going to be humongous. It is for the world at large and the governments and governments at various levels, not only the federal governments, but also state governments, local self-governments, all of the governments to actually work on how to seed or to catalyze the transformation that we want to do, I think. So from that perspective, I think I'm extremely happy to be part of this process. We have catalyzed some of this, but the point is that the world is far from what is required for 2050.
We're seeing the effects in Delhi Yeah, apart from anything else. But sir, gift as a concept was always a concept, and we know as a part of the industry the kind of effort that it takes to make it a big thing, and obviously gift is a very, very transformative project. What, apart from everything else, has been the most rewarding thing for you personally in the gift transformation and such a big project?
So the initial thesis of the International Financial Center came about through through a principle called onshoring the offshore. I think because it came about by when the Honorable Prime Minister made a visit to Singapore maybe some 20 years back.
Yes.
So he was seeing a number of institutions, I think both corporate and even public sector, who are actually had set up a business in Singapore to serve India. I think so. It was a strange. It was ironical. I think that a company should be set up in a foreign jurisdiction to serve India.
Yeah.
So this was the case of funds, maybe aircraft leasing companies, ship leasing companies, angel funds, venture capital funds, you name them, I think. So the thinking came about in the government on how to create a regulatory architecture, tax regime, and a policy construct which actually enables a lot of these enterprises to come back to India and serve within India itself. Because it should be logical that in India, where you have a huge human resource which is very cost effective. I hear that it is between 1/3 to 1/5 of the costs in Singapore or in Hong Kong. If you take the case of real estate, I think BKC could be anytime maybe 1/5 of the cost in Hong Kong or any other places. The cost of living is lower. So it is no brainer that many of these companies should actually be working out of India. But a host of other factors like what I just mentioned has actually kept them out. So the thought process came about how to create that architecture. So now we are past that curve since 2019 when Parliament was kind enough to enact the International Financial Services Centres Authority Act. Since then, I think we followed a clean slate approach and we wrote up a lot of regulations which actually did not mimic the local regulation but rather looked at what happens in the rest of the world. So today we have about 31 regulations which are completely aligned with the rest of the world, largely I would say, I think still maybe a few more things to be done. So the proof of the pudding is finally in the eating. So today, 5 years down the line, we have about 28 international and local banks who have set up their businesses there. We have, the total asset size is about, $71 billion, and out of which about $50 billion has been lent to the corporate sector in India and abroad. Then we have about 180 funds, including what Pradeep must have mentioned as 2 ESG funds and so on and so forth. We have 2 international exchanges, a bullion exchange, about 16 insurance companies, a variety of financial institutions which actually provide services to the Indian. But now our theme has changed from just onshoring the offshore. Our focus has now shifted to India at 2047. I think the Honorable Prime Minister has actually vocalized the need for India to look ahead for the next 25 years. While it may have done a lot of reforms the last decade or so, or maybe a couple of decades, the thought process is now as to how to support the Indian economic landscape to actually to become a developed country by 2047. So it will require more than normal, ordinary effort to get there. So, amongst the variety of problems, one of the problems that we are probably tackling now on just onshoring the offshore is to look at how to provide cost-effective financial services and cost-effective capital to Indian corporates. I think the short point is that if Indian corporates have to become global champions, they have to access capital at globally competitive rates.
Absolutely.
Without inputs being competitive, one can never expect the outputs to be competitive, right? So therefore, the thought process is that how to get the financial institutions in GIFT City to provide that cost efficiency in capital, be it debt or equity, or financial services, maybe hedging services, maybe any other kind of financial service, including insurance or and a variety of other services which the financial sector would need at globally cost-efficient rates. So that is the underlying theme for us. I think on how do we cut away the layers of costs which probably the industry should not be saddled with if they have to be global champions.
No, apart from cost, for the audience, everybody looks at the market regulator SEBI for various things related to the capital markets and so on and so forth. The amount of work, Mr. Rajaraman mentioned a lot of things. Now, I know that the event involves a lot of startups pitching and their investors who are looking at it, startups who are looking at funds. In a so-called fund drought that has happened, especially in the startup industry. One number which was very, very interesting is 180 funds So there are 180 funds that are registered in this thing, and I am told so that the amount and almost some 125, 30 or 130 fund managers which are existing. That's a huge number, and I'm told so that today SEBI, just to give perspective, regulates the entire AIF industry is about 11 lakh crores, or we can say about 110 odd billion dollars, 120 odd billion dollars, and the amount of funds which are being managed at IFSCA is 10%. That's almost $12 billion. That's a huge number, sir. Like how, like I remember this number being in like 1 or 2% till about 3 years back. That's phenomenal work.
So, I mean, the fund industry there, I mean, I think is actually been attracted by the simplicity of our regulations. We have kept it principle based, we have kept it disclosure based, and we have also kind of looked at how to reduce the cost of operations. So we have looked, I mean, like Pradeep mentioned, I think if there are some areas like ESG, then we also have looked at how to waive the fees. I mean, I think to ensure that we attract people to come here to deliver capital which is direly required by our industry. So the thought process is to not to just be a stiff-necked regulator, but also we have been entrusted with a development mandate by Parliament. So the purpose is to actually to create that positive, welcoming environment, which actually inspires innovators in the financial sector to come up and set up space. Let me also say that while we have 2 ESG funds which have launched themselves, we also have an impact fund, I think, which from the corporate sector, I think, which is fully funded by a multinational company. So wow. Investing into impact startups in India. And we have many other companies, many other financial funds, which have actually themed themselves towards focusing on mid-sized SMEs, I think, which are in the growth stage and so on and so forth. So we believe that people have developed that confidence, especially LPs. I think it's very important for LPs to develop the confidence in a new jurisdiction. I think such confidence doesn't come easily. Yeah. So we have a very, even the likes of Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, which has set up its very large sovereign wealth fund out of GIFT City. So we, not to speak of the pension funds, many of them who are LPs in GIFT City funds. So the idea is that to create a regulatory environment which invokes certainty and trust amongst foreign investors. This is very, very important because foreign investors are not just looking at tax concessions. Tax concessions are the last thing that they would look at. They would look at whether the regime provides the kind of certainty, the kind of stability that they are looking at in the long term. So for the last 10 years since 2014 and since 5 years since the enactment of the Act, we have ensured that the way in which we regulate actually inspires confidence. So we want to actually to get better and better, and we are one of the few regulators, I think, I don't think there is any other regulator in India which has a regulation on how to make regulation, I think. So let me also say that, because unfortunately I think regulation making is something which must not unsettle what is, which is going well in the market, while it must clamp down on bad actors and bad behavior and all that stuff. At the same time, it must also inspire the confidence of people who are playing well, I think. So therefore, we are extremely conscious of that, and therefore we believe that our regulation making must actually ensure that it creates the trust and certainty in the market.
No, so I think that's music to the ears of everybody, including all the people in the back who are trying to get their last minute networking done. But the fact of the matter is, I think for me personally, it's a very, very big thing that we are saying that regulator is not for the bad apple. Whereas generally the impression would always be that it is that bad apple which drives bulk of the regulatory action. I think personally I can say as part of the HDFC group that it's a very, very positive thing. We have seen the kind of funds that are there. Let me come to a little bit which is probably more interesting for funds as well as obviously the startups, which is investors. LPs, you talked about global funds trying to set up and why IFSCA is not just a tax haven. What is your plan of attracting global LPs? Because ultimately for any small fund manager and a lot of IVCA members, what is very important is how do we get investors? Investments is still fine. Is there anything which is being done in that regard?
Yeah, so let me put it this way, I think. So the LP trust in a jurisdiction comes from a variety of things. As I already mentioned, it comes out of the stability in the policy regime, the certainty of policy making and regulation making, the professionalism which the regulations are implemented, and also on market behavior, I think, because finally they also depend upon the quality of the fund managers who obtain there, I think. We must get good fund managers who also inspire trust. It's very important that, like for instance, let's come back to the theme of this thing. It's very important that the people who are glued to the climate finance and ESG must also get the confidence that I think the money is, the use of proceeds goes to the right direction, I think, or the right uses, I think, which they intend to. So therefore, it's very important that our regulations also provide that kind of confidence through appropriate disclosures, and not only one time but also periodic disclosures, so that the market gets inspired by the fact that the money gets used in the right way. So therefore, I would say that it's a combination of both regulations as well as the behavior of the marketplace. And finally, I think it also, let me also say that IFSCA is wedded to the India story, I think. So yes. we are not like one of those tax havens, which has its own flag, I think. It's not like that. So our story is the India story, I think. So therefore, when India's flag is flying high, I think, with so much of value in the global marketplace. So we believe that I think the time has come for, and let me put it this way. The GIFT City, the IFSCA platform there is actually one more way in which a foreign investor can invest into India. Yeah. So foreign investors have been investing sitting from San Francisco, they wire transfer a sum of money and then probably participate in a company or a fund. They can come into India and set up a fund manager or in Mumbai and then do the business. We have created a third way, which is a hybrid of both. I think they get the flexibility of working in a foreign jurisdiction because it's a foreign piece of deemed foreign territory. They also get the flexibility of a low cost of Indian operations by being within India and the same time zone and so on and so forth. So therefore, I think we have also created a hybrid option for the foreign investors. So I would say that the regulation or policy making is also about enabling the options. Yeah. Because business models can actually demand different kinds of regimes. So our job is to create those opportunities and the options. So it is for the businessman, the fund manager, or the financial institution to decide what fits him for the particular theme for which I think they have actually set out. So we have created that option and we have inspired the confidence of many institutions, the banks, the funds, insurance companies and many others. And fintech companies also, for instance. I think many fintech companies are there in GIFT City which actually look at developing technology for the foreign clients and also probably doing services out of GIFT City as well. We have payment services providers. We have AML CFT services provider, a variety of fintechs who operate of GIFT City as well, I think.
Sir, I know I'll move from I know that color of green is a very important thing for you. Obviously, whenever we talk about a green summit, how can we not talk about how green is green? And I know that whether it's light green or dark green or just about green. Now you have been, I know that it's something which is very close to your heart and about how things should be exactly what it is. And also a lot of initiatives have been taken at IFSCA about mandating banks. You need to just shed some light on that, sir, because that's very, very interesting.
So, let's come back to the big picture. The big picture, as I said, I think the world requires anything between $200 to $300 trillion till 2050. So, if you look at what India would require, there are many estimates again, I think, which says anything between $10 to $12 trillion. It could be even $20 trillion. So, the going rate per year, I think, of investment should be anything between, at this rate, should be anything between, say, $7 to $10 trillion in the global, for all the countries put together. And India, perhaps it has to be at least about $500 billion every year. So, the last year, for instance, globally, I think the total I think in 21-22, the total green finance, or the climate finance was about $1.2 trillion. That's an estimate which Climate Policy Initiative has put together. So largely focused on renewables, on basically energy sector, transportation, and building and infrastructure, wastewater treatment, and a variety of themes. So India's requirement would be, as I said, quite huge, I think. So we'll require, our corporates will require a lot of debt, a lot of equity. So we believe that the banks in GIFT City can play a very important role because, I mean, external commercial borrowings will be a very important component. So with the banks having set the pace by lending nearly about $50 billion as on date, both a combination of trade finance and project and project finance. We have last year mandated that banks shall lend at least 5% of their credit for green purposes.
5%?
5%. And so as on date, I think the banks, all the banks put together have actually lent something like $3 billion. I mean, they have lent about, out of the portfolio, about $50 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have crossed that 5% requirement. So it's just a few banks which have just gotten off. So there are many other banks which are in the process of setting up their policies, etc. So we see a great opportunity for Indian corporates to actually raise green debt out of GIFT City banks. I mean, I would say that it's not only GIFT City banks. I also see an opportunity for private debt funds also to be set up in GIFT City. So currently we have a few private debt funds, but I think that's just the beginning. So we believe that the private debt is also something which the corporate sector,
the private credit ecosystem,
yes, can really access that. So our job will be to kind of facilitate that. We'll see how we can probably reduce the cost of operations in GIFT City by making our regulations more efficient for them. So in fact, we are in the process of amending our regulations. I think we expect that maybe by end of this month, we'll announce a few more amendments to our regulations which actually enable funds to actually reduce their cost of operations in serving the Indian market out of GIFT City. So this is one part of the story. Then of course, Pradeep must have talked about the ESG funds and I think a couple of funds which have actually launched themselves out of GIFT City. I think we expect more to happen. Our transition fund committee has actually given a report, but that will require a work with the sovereign. I think we'll have to look at things like blended finance, concessional finance. In fact, a few multilateral development banks have shown interest. I think we have actually reached out to European Development Bank and ADB and many others. Many of them have actually issued green bonds out of GIFT City. But we also believe that they can also put on the table concessional financing which can actually seed or catalyze more investments from the private sector. So this is the second part. The third part is obviously the bond market. The bond market, we already have a green bond framework. The NSE-IX has a green sustainability platform, out of which so far about $15 billion worth of bonds have been issued, which are GSS plus, green, sustainable, social or sustainable linked bonds. So we expect that more categories, including transition or transition linked instruments also to be launched out of GIFT City maybe in some time to come. So there is a long way to go, but I guess we have covered some initial ground, and we expect the market here, especially the strong players, to come forward and then kind of nudge us to actually look at greater innovations to support this pursuit of bigger numbers of capital for the Indian market.
No, sir. So for the uninitiated, I know a lot of effort has gone on behalf of IFSCA, especially after Mr. Rajaraman came into the picture, about communicating what kind of stuff exists. So if you are entrepreneurs looking for funds, you can tap into the capital base here and the entire LP base and the GP base. If you are an LP, you can target getting your investors in place as well as investee company in place. A low stroke of funds, different types of funds are being set up, which is very interesting, banks and so on and so forth. But sir, that's all the positives. And like sir always mentioned that, Vipul, you have to ask me the tough questions. So what are the problems? I know one problem that we face in general to set up is lack of space, just not enough commercial space. I know it's in the making, but any progress as far as that part is concerned?
Yeah, and nearly about 4 million square feet. I think, of course, I am not the party to talk about it, but still I am reporting what I hear. So GIFT City company, which is the Infraco, does the development, I think. So nearly about 30 towers, I think it's a vertical city. So all buildings get to about 25, 30 floors. So about 30 buildings are under construction, I think, number to extent of about 4 million square feet. So they will get completed over the next few months. 6 months to a year, a couple of years. So I think that is a temporary glitch, I think, which will get solved in due course.
Because physical space and I think availability of getting to get the right people at the ground level, these become pretty much the two biggest challenges. But there is no doubt about the fact that IFSCA is one of the most forthcoming regulators who is going and bending back. I have not seen regulators, with due respect to everyone, to see that the kind of impact that it can have and the kind of positives that can be done for any segment of the entire investment ecosystem. That communication there, and I would tell Rajat, because the best way of, till the time you feel it, you can't understand what is happening, that the next big summit on the investment side should probably happen in Ahmedabad at the GIFT City. And so I'm sure that can, if anybody has, while the time is up, but if anybody has any tough questions and uncomfortable questions to Mr. Rajaraman, you're most welcome.
Okay, so since there are no questions, so let me also say that since there are a number of startups who also have taken off time to come here, let me say that this is India's decade, I think, or decade, as the Honorable Prime Minister says. So there are many very interesting, theses put out by many of the startups here. I ran into a couple of them during my short, interaction with many of them. So it is possible that some of you who are in the financial space or space which actually can serve green or climate kind of tech across the world, I think in the financial services sector. So please do look at even a global platform. I think use IFSCA as a global platform to provide this service as a this technology as a service to the rest of the world. I think so. This I can see a few companies who have done that in the accounting space, in the artificial intelligence space, etc., who set up their operations in GIFT City to serve the world market. So it is possible that I think some of you, I think, like for instance, I met a very interesting company called Reput. I think so. Like there are many other companies like that which could perhaps serve the world markets out of GIFT City as well. I think so. Please do examine this possibility. I think I feel that Indian startups have the opportunity to develop green technology, and especially in the climate finance space, technology for the climate finance, which actually can be, packaged as a service from India to the rest of the world.
So if you want to raise money or you want to deploy money in a cost-efficient, very friendly ecosystem, GIFT is and IFSC is what it is. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being us. And
Shri Rajaraman, thank you very much. And to you also, Mr. Roongta, we request you to please stay on the stage, as we would like to invite Shri Jayant Sinha to please be on stage and felicitate them. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It's been quite a learning session for all of us, highlighting and exploring the role of IFSCA to mobilize the capital needed to address climate changes in the country.